What happens when the WNBA's golden goose can't even stay on the court because referees refuse to blow their whistles? Caitlin Clark just dropped a truth bomb that has the entire league scrambling for damage control. And before we dive into this explosive story that's shaking the foundation of women's basketball, make sure you hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear will change how you see the WNBA forever. Picture this: the biggest star in women's basketball history, the player who single-handedly brought millions of new fans to the WNBA, has missed 18 games this season. Not because she's taking a vacation, not because she's being strategic, but because she's been beaten down, targeted, and left unprotected by the very officials who are supposed to keep the game fair. And now for the first time, Caitlin Clark is done staying silent. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely devastating for the league. When Clark plays, the Fever win. When she doesn't, they struggle. But here's the kicker that has league executives sweating bullets. Television ratings drop by 55% when she's not on the court. Let that sink in. More than half the audience disappears when their golden goose is sitting on the bench in street clothes. And the worst part, it could have all been prevented if the referees just did their jobs. Clark's injury nightmare started early in the 2025 season, and it's been a brutal cycle ever since. First, it was a left quad strain that knocked her out for 5 games between May and June. Then came the left groin injury that sidelined her for another 4 regular season games, plus the Commissioner's Cup final. And now, she's dealing with a right groin injury that has kept her out since July 15th, missing the All-Star game in her own adopted hometown of Indianapolis. For someone who never missed a single game in college or her rookie year, this has been an absolute disaster. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Clark sat down with WNBA legend Sue Bird for an explosive interview, and what she revealed has everyone talking. When Bird asked her about what she was doing on the sideline during games she missed, Clark's response was pure fire. She smiled, leaned in, and said she was more so coaching the refs. Then came the knockout punch that had league headquarters scrambling. I would make a good ref. I wouldn't miss a call. That wasn't just a throwaway joke from a frustrated player. This was Caitlin Clark, the face of the WNBA, directly challenging the competence of the league's officials. And you know what? She's absolutely right. The officiating this season has been so bad that even other coaches and players are speaking out, consequences be damned. Let me paint you a picture of what Clark has been dealing with. Every single game, she faces a level of physicality that goes way beyond normal basketball. We're not talking about tough defense here. We're talking about constant full court pressure, grabs, holds, hits to the face, knees to the abdomen, and cheap shots that would make an MMA fighter blush. And the refs, they swallow their whistles like they're being paid to look the other way. Remember that game against Connecticut when JC Sheldon's knee went straight into Clark's abdomen? No call. Or how about when Marina Mabrey literally shoved Clark to the ground after a dead ball, still in the game? The Dallas Wings game where JJ Quinterly was playing Street Fighter instead of basketball? You guessed it. No calls. It's like the refs decided that fouling Caitlin Clark doesn't count, and the results have been catastrophic. Clark's own brother Colin couldn't take it anymore. He went on social media and absolutely blasted the referees after watching his sister get beat up game after game with no protection. He deleted the post later, probably after some family discussion, but the message was clear. Even her family can see what's happening, and they're not staying quiet about it anymore. But here's the part that really shows Clark's character. Despite all the frustration, despite missing game after game, she's been signing autographs for way longer when she's injured than when she's playing. She told Sue Bird that she wants to give fans something to remember, even when she can't be on the court. That's the kind of person we're talking about here. Someone who cares so much about the fans that she's putting her body on the line every night, only to be let down by officials who seem to have forgotten what a whistle is for. The emotional toll has been devastating. Clark admitted something that shocked everyone. This is the first time she hasn't felt like a young body that can run around and sprint every day. Think about that. A 23-year-old superstar athlete is feeling like her body is breaking down, not because of natural wear and tear, but because she's being used as a punching bag while the refs pretend everything is fine. Her mother's text message during this latest injury setback hit different. You've taken so much time for everybody else. You need to take time for yourself now. Those words carried weight that Clark had never felt before. The pressure to return quickly wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about learning to prioritize her own health over everyone else's expectations, including the league that desperately needs her on the court to maintain viewership. And let's talk about those viewership numbers for a second because they're absolutely mind-blowing. The May 17th Sky Fever matchup drew around 2.5 million viewers. Games without Clark and other injured stars, they're averaging closer to 1.5 million on ABC. That's a million viewer drop. Networks aren't paying billions for those kinds of numbers, and Commissioner Engelbert knows it. Speaking of Engelbert, her response to this crisis has been about as effective as a chocolate teapot. At the All-Star weekend, she announced that the league was quote on it unquote regarding the officiating problems. Really? That's the best you've got? Your biggest star is getting destroyed on the court, missing nearly half the season, and your responses were on it? No wonder players and coaches are going public with their frustration. Here's a stat that should terrify everyone who cares about player safety. According to kinesiologist Lucas C. Hoffer, who tracks WNBA injuries, players have suffered 141 injuries since opening day. 57 of those were head and neck injuries. Backcourt players like Clark have suffered over 100 more injuries than frontcourt players. This isn't normal basketball attrition. This is what happens when you let games turn into wrestling matches. Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White has been Clark's biggest defender, and she's not holding back anymore. After one particularly brutal game, White went on an absolute tear about the officiating. Her mic drop moment? Everybody's getting better except the officials. The camera caught Clark's face when White said that, and her expression said everything. Finally, someone in authority was saying what everyone was thinking. White also pointed out something that many fans might not realize. NBA referees are salaried employees making six figures. WNBA referees, they're paid by the game and work college games in the winter with completely different rules. The NBA has an off-site replay center for reviews. The WNBA, same refs who made the bad call review their own work. It's like asking a student to grade their own test. What could possibly go wrong? The frustration isn't limited to Clark and the Fever. Las Vegas coach Becky Hammon unloaded on the refs after Aja Wilson took a shot to the head that resulted in a concussion. Kelsey Plum went off about opponents, quote, just coming and swinging, unquote, with no calls. Angel Reese has been dealing with similar treatment. This is a league-wide crisis, but Clark is bearing the brunt of it because she's the primary target. What makes this even more infuriating is that Clark tried to handle this the right way initially. She would discuss calls with referees calmly, trying to understand their perspective, but after months of being ignored, she's done playing nice. That moment against Seattle when she yelled, "You were right in front of her," after another missed call, that's not Caitlin Clark losing her cool. That's Caitlin Clark standing up for herself when nobody else will. The league's response to all this criticism has been pathetic. They point out that foul calls are actually up this season, averaging 18.7 per game. But here's what they're not telling you. Those fouls aren't being called on the plays that matter. They're not protecting their stars when they're getting absolutely mauled. They're calling ticky-tack fouls while ignoring the haymakers. And can we talk about the absolute joke that was the All-Star Game situation? The event was literally set up in Indianapolis with Clark as the centerpiece. Her face was on massive banners all over the city. She was supposed to be the star of the show in front of her home crowd. Instead, she had to watch from the sideline because her groin injury, likely aggravated by all the uncalled physical abuse, wouldn't let her play. The league's biggest showcase event without its biggest star. Marketing genius right there. Here's what really gets me fired up about this whole situation. Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She's not asking for superstar calls like some players get in other leagues. She's literally just asking for the rules to be enforced consistently. When someone knees you in the stomach, that's a foul. When someone shoves you to the ground after the whistle, that's a flagrant. This isn't rocket science, but apparently it's too complicated for WNBA officials. The stop-and-go nature of Clark's injuries has been the most frustrating part. She'll work her way back, play a few great games, then get beat up again with no protection and end up back on the injured list. She described it perfectly. There's no training camp to build back up. You're just tossed into game 30 and expected to perform while opponents are gunning for you and refs are looking the other way. Clark's perspective on her injured teammates has completely changed too. She admitted she never really understood what they went through until now. The mental challenge of watching from the sidelines, the frustration of rehabbing instead of playing, the uncertainty of not knowing when you'll be back. It's given her a new appreciation for what athletes go through when their bodies betray them, especially when it's not even their fault. But here's the thing that should really worry the WNBA. Clark isn't just any player. She's the reason millions of people started watching women's basketball. She's the one selling selling out arenas across the country. She's the one driving merchandise sales through the roof. And if the league can't protect her, if they can't keep her on the court, what message does that send to every other player? What message does that send to fans who tune in specifically to watch her play? The controversy reached a boiling point when veteran journalist Christine Brennan asked Connecticut's Dijonay Carrington about a play where she hit Clark in the eye during the playoffs. It was a legitimate question about a controversial play, but the Players Association lost their minds. They called it racism, they called it unprofessional, they called it everything except what it was, which was journalism. Even a WNBA official had to step in and say the questions were completely appropriate. This is the environment Clark is operating in, where asking about obvious cheap shots is considered controversial, where pointing out bad officiating makes you the bad guy, where the best player in the league can't even stay healthy because nobody will protect her from unnecessary violence. Commissioner Engelbert keeps saying nobody's ever happy with officiating in any sport, but this isn't about being happy. This is about player safety. This is about the integrity of the game. This is about whether the WNBA wants to be taken seriously as a professional sports league or whether its content being a glorified streetball exhibition where the biggest stars get hurt because nobody has the courage to blow a whistle. The impact on the Fever has been devastating. They're 17-13 with Clark in the lineup, showing what they're capable of when their floor general is healthy. Without her, they're struggling to maintain playoff position, and the offensive flow that makes them so dangerous completely disappears. Players like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell have stepped up admirably, but they're not Caitlin Clark. Nobody is. And that's really the point here. The WNBA has a once-in-a-generation talent who has brought unprecedented attention and revenue to the league. She's tough, she's talented, and she's incredibly marketable. But if you can't keep her on the court because your officials won't do their jobs, none of that matters. You can't market a player who's always in street clothes. You can't sell tickets to see someone sitting on the bench. You can't grow the game if your biggest star is constantly dealing with preventable injuries. Clark's willingness to finally speak out about these issues represents a turning point. She's done being diplomatic. She's done pretending everything is fine. She's done watching her season and potentially her career get derailed by incompetent officiating and targeted physical play that goes unpunished. The question now is whether the WNBA will actually do something about it, or whether they'll continue with meaningless statements about being on it while their golden goose gets destroyed night after night. Because make no mistake, if Caitlin Clark's career gets shortened or derailed because the league refused to protect her, it won't just be Clark who suffers. It'll be the entire WNBA, all the players who benefit from the attention she brings, and millions of fans who just want to watch great basketball without worrying whether their favorite player will make it through the game in one piece. The ball is in your court, Commissioner Engelbert. Your biggest star has spoken. Your coaches are speaking. Your fans are screaming. The question is, are you listening? Or will we look back at 2025 as the year the WNBA fumbled away its best chance at mainstream success because nobody had the courage to tell the referees to do their jobs? One thing's for certain, Caitlin Clark isn't going away quietly. She's fought too hard and come too far to let bad officiating and targeted violence end her story. She'll keep fighting, keep speaking out, and keep pushing for change, because that's what leaders do. They don't just accept broken systems, they demand better. And the WNBA better start listening before it's too late. If you think the WNBA needs to protect its players better, hit that like button and subscribe for more hard-hitting coverage of women's basketball. Share this video with every basketball fan you know because this story needs to be heard. The future of the WNBA might literally depend on it.